Manager says you can't deny Conor McGregor is at welterweight. Conor McGregor has said that his days fighting at lightweight haven't come to a close yet, but increasingly it sounds like we will see the former 155 and 145 champ fighting at welterweight in the future. In fact, the star's managers admitted he doesn't think it's healthy for McGregor to cut down anymore. When it was announced that McGregor was going to fight Donald Cerrone in a welterweight contest at UFC 246, there was a lot of talk about the decision to fight at 170. The consensus was the decision to have the fight at welterweight was done so out of convenience. After all, when the fight was announced, it wasn't too far out from the January 18th date. Further, Cerrone has never been regarded as a big welterweight, so why go through the trouble of cutting weight? But as UFC 246 neared, McGregor reported that he felt great at the weight, and he started talking about making a title run at 170. Specifically, McGregor mentioned fighting the likes of the welterweight champ Kamaru Usman and former interim champ Colby Covington, in addition to Jorge Masvidal. Well, since McGregor quickly put away Donald Cerrone last month, UFC President Dana White has said the plan is to have him fight for the lightweight title next. But during a recent talk with MMA Fighting, McGregor's manager, Audi Attar, had this to say about how his client feels at welterweight. "I look at all my clients as human beings, and I've seen him at 145, 155, and 170 in mixed martial arts, and he just appears to be a lot happier at 170, Attar said. It's not as strenuous on the body as it relates to the weight cut. That does not mean he wouldn't be able to make 155. 145, I just think it's unhealthy. To get back down to that weight class would just be unhealthy. But 155 is doable and something I know he's keen on doing again, so that's not out of the realm of possibility. But you can't deny how comfortable he was at 170. That was his normal frame, so not having to put your body through a rigorous weight cut, there's something to be said about that." Now, Attar made it clear that McGregor can still cut to 155, and that's something the star wants to do. So it's not like McGregor's abandoned his desire to rematch Khabib Nurmagomedov or reclaim the lightweight title. But you have to wonder if McGregor's days competing at lightweight are numbered, right? For example, if he does advance to face the winner of the April 18th bout between Khabib and Tony Ferguson, and if he does win the lightweight title again, will he defend the belt or move up to 170? It kind of sounds like the latter, no? No fighter in UFC history has won titles in 3 different weight classes, so you know that McGregor would love to add that accomplishment to his legacy. If he was able to win the welterweight title, he would certainly entrench himself as one of the all-time greats. Before any of that can happen, however, McGregor has some serious and extremely difficult work to do. Jon Jones takes verbal shot at Dominick Reyes' record, says challengers only defeated cans. Hey, before we started another channel called Watch MMA. If you're interested in top 10 UFC moments and more, check us out, link in the description. Back to our story. Dominick Reyes has gone undefeated in MMA to date and competed in sports extensively before transitioning into fighting. But evidently, Jon Jones isn't overly impressed with his next opponent's resume. Reyes has been tapped to fight Jones this Saturday at UFC 247 after going 6-0 to date in the octagon and 12-0 overall in Pro MMA. Before he moved into fighting, Reyes competed in wrestling and football. In fact, Reyes played as a defensive back in football at the collegiate level. While leading up to UFC 247, Reyes has cited his athletic background and abilities as one of the reasons he's a different challenger for Jones. For example, the California fighter said the following in a UFC video: "He has never experienced an athlete of my caliber. He has never fought an athlete like me. He has fought average athletes." Those comments and others Reyes has made about his athletic background have clearly got back to Jones, as recently he tweeted out the following: "He's fought wrestlers, he's fought strikers, but never athletes. DR. Probably the dumbest thing I've heard in a while." DC competed in the SCAA finals and in the Olympics. OSP played Division I football. Bader, the current double champ of Bellator. Vitor, crazy speed and explosive. Lyoto had been striking since age 5. Glover was on a 20-fight win streak, but none of those guys are athletes, I guess. The light heavyweight champ also took a poke at Reyes' athletic accomplishments specifically, as he also posted this: "Dominick Reyes, one of the greatest athletes in Apple Valley history. Being a big fish in a small pond for so long has really gone to his head. There's no doubting that Daniel Cormier was a very successful wrestler before moving into MMA, and that's one of the big reasons why he's been so successful in fighting. Same thing for Ryan Bader. Further, fighters like Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort, and Glover Teixeira are also very talented athletes in the grand scheme of things. But when you consider that Reyes is 6 foot 4 inches tall and that he played as a defensive back at the collegiate level in football, obviously the guy is also ridiculously athletic. In fact, it's because of Reyes' height and athleticism, some people believe he could be a bigger threat to Jones than most people think. Jones also, however, took a jab at the fighting record of Reyes. The renowned fighter also said this: "Beating up on cans has got him convinced he's a better athlete than most of the world. If he was so badass, he would have won the California State Wrestling Championships. He would have went to Division I. He would have at least made a practice squad for the NFL. This man is delusional." So what do you guys think? Is Reyes being delusional, and has he defeated cans in his MMA run to date? Most people likely wouldn't describe Chris Weidman, Jared Cannonier, or Volkan Oezdemir as B-level fighters, right? Or Ovince St. Preux for that matter, who Jones also praised for his athletic background. Israel Adesanya promises to make fight with Yoel Romero look easy. Israel Adesanya pushed for a bout with Yoel Romero since a lot of fans believe the powerful wrestler could expose the middleweight champ. Well, now that Adesanya has got his wish, the last stylebenders promising to make this scrap with Romero look like a walk in the park. After Adesanya put away Robert Whittaker at UFC 243 in October, the plan was for the middleweight champ to fight Paulo Costa next. The reason being that, like Adesanya, Costa has gone undefeated in the UFC, and he's coming off a win over Romero. Costa, however, was pushed to the sidelines with a bicep injury, and Adesanya began driving for a fight with Romero. The highlight reel striker let it be known that he wants to fight Romero since so many people have argued the Olympic wrestler will pose a big-time threat to him. At first, it didn't look like the UFC was going to be on board with the bout since Romero's coming off a loss. But ultimately, the two were scheduled to fight at UFC 248, which will go down on March 7th. So it's clear that Adesanya wants to prove his doubters wrong by defeating Romero. But how does the talented kickboxer think the fight will go? And does Adesanya believe Romero will in fact be his toughest test to date? Well, while talking to Submission Radio recently, the Nigerian fighter said this:
"I've had some tough tests. Right now, I still think Calvin has been my toughest fight so far. Physically, mentally, Anderson was my toughest fight so far. We'll see. That's yet to be said. I don't think he's going to be. Like the way that the match is shaping up, I don't really think he's going to be. I think he's going to be quite, not easy, but I'll make it look easy." I said that about the Robert fight because everyone was counting me out. You know, they're like, "Oh man, this is it. Nah, you can't fuck with Robert, this and that." And I said, "I'll make it look easy." And what did I do? I made it look easy. I just feel that way for this one as well. I don't think Yoel is the guy that's fought someone who just stays in front of him. He stays in front of him, and he likes a punching bag. And that I am not.
Now, a lot of people would likely agree that Adesanya will be the best striker Romero's faced to date in the octagon, so hitting the elusive and dangerous champ might be tough. That said, Romero did KO Luke Rockhold, who is no slouch either when it comes to fighting on his feet. But the big question is whether we'll see Romero put his wrestling game to work, and how much. It's due to his wrestling pedigree that many believe he could take Adesanya into the deepest waters he's encountered to date. The most notable wrestler Adesanya has fought in the octagon so far is Derek Brunson, and the last stylebender needed less than a round to score the win. So what do you guys think? Will Adesanya be able to shut down Romero's wrestling as well and record another highlight reel win? Or might we see Romero finally hoist UFC gold and hand Adesanya his first MMA loss?
I think Khabib's an amazing fighter. I think he's done a great job representing the UFC. He's a great ambassador for our sport. But if you were to ask some MMA experts about myself and Khabib, I think most people would be able to tell just our resumes are completely different.
Yours is much deeper. Yeah.
I've fought so many world champions under my belt that I've defeated. Khabib, a lot of his victories are against a lot of people that are relatively unknown. and where I've been fighting legends since I was a young man.
There's no question. There's
So,
no question that your resume is deeper. I don't mean who's accomplished more. I'm talking about just the eyeball test.
The eyeball. What do you mean by that eyeball test?
Nurmagomedov, in a sport where it seemed early on that the one whose base is the ground game usually has an advantage versus the guy who's best known for striking, is the best example I can think of the guy whose ground game is ridiculous and then can also stand up.
Right. Yeah. His stand-up game is really not much to write home about. You know, I really don't want to insult my fellow martial artists. I don't want to insult these guys. You know, I'm happy for everyone. Like I said, some guys are more popular. Some guys make more money. It's always going to be kind of an opinion thing. But by the time I leave the sport, you know, I don't think there's going to be much of an argument.
Assuming, John, you live up. Assuming, John.